Months before the 2019 NBA draft, Zion Williamson was the clear #1 pick. Going into the 2020 draft, however, scouts and teams don't see an obvious top choice. And in years like this, the NCAA tournament and individual team workouts have always been the best way to separate potential stars from role players or guys who might not make it in the league. But there was no tournament this year. And as of now, there have been no individual player workouts. Who knows if that will happen? So there's lots of guesswork. And for a player like James Wiseman, who scouts have barely seen play, teams will have to decide if they want to spend a high pick on a guy who's still pretty unknown. In today's video, I'm going to tell you all about James Wiseman, talk about his story, and explain why he's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, question marks in this year's draft. How's it going, everybody? This is Troy, host of the Half Court Report YouTube channel, and back with you today about another NBA draft prospect that has a pretty good story. I've already done a few of these. Maybe check them out. LaMelo, I've got Deni Avdija, I've got Killian Hayes, just to name a few. This time I'm talking about James Wiseman, one of the biggest mysteries in the 2020 NBA draft. And a big reason for that is he played about as many NCAA games as you or I did this past year. Only 3 games. So hit that thumbs up button. We'll go for 3 likes on this video. Let's go for 333 likes on this video. And make sure you sub to the channel as well. All the cool kids are doing it. You can also follow me on Twitter at Half Court Report. Let's talk about James Wiseman, because I can't remember a time when I've seen a guy who has gotten as much publicity as he has, as many awards as he's gotten, for there to be so many questions about his game and what type of player he's going to be in the NBA. And with the way the last NCAA season shook out, NBA front offices are really going into this year's draft blind. Or if not blindly, they're at least going in with a lot less information than they're used to having. And James Wiseman is a real gamble, which is one reason his story is so interesting. Because on paper, he really looks the part, right? I mean, you see him during warm-ups. This dude is a can't-miss player. 7'1", 250 pounds, 7'6" wingspan. Everything about him screams NBA-ready prospect, future all-star. This guy is going to be awesome. Even in college, as small as the sample size was, 3 games, he looked the part. I mean, in his debut for the Memphis Tigers, in 22 minutes, he racked up 28 points, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks. And scouts love that he's an athlete with pure, raw talent. He's got stuff that you can't teach. They always say, you can't teach height, you can't teach size. You can find tons of scouting reports mentioning his power and his force when he throws down dunks and how he's going to be an awesome rim-running center from day one. One general manager who had to stay anonymous because he can't talk about players that aren't yet in the NBA said, "I love his size, his length, and his ability to run the floor." The knock on James Wiseman is that he's soft. But the bottom line is he has all the measurables and he can really impact the game on the defensive end. So it's clear that what dogs James Wiseman isn't a record of poor performance, but rather no high-caliber basketball games on his resume at all. Like I said earlier, he's only played in 3 games since he graduated high school. I went back through some past NBA drafts to see who was the last guy who played in fewer games than James Wiseman and still got drafted in the top 5. You would have to go back to 2011 when Enes Kanter was picked number 3 overall by the Utah Jazz. He had to sit out his one-and-done year in Kentucky because of NCAA issues. Other players who had their one-and-done seasons cut short, like Kyrie or Darius Garland, that was all due to injury. In case you don't know the story, in 2019, Wiseman came to the University of Memphis as one of the nation's top prospects. All signs pointed him to having a successful college career, Memphis potentially even going to the national championship game. Unfortunately, he and Penny Hardaway, who is from Memphis, played for years in the NBA, memorable time with Orlando. He and Wiseman quickly became embroiled in controversy when Hardaway was accused of acting as Wiseman's booster during high school. So Hardaway is a former player at the University of Memphis. He gave Wiseman and his mother $11,000 in order to move from Nashville to Memphis. A couple years before Wiseman even committed to the university, he was still in high school during this time, and this was even before Hardaway was the coach for the Tigers. So the whole thing is kind of shady because it's almost like he was getting penalized for accepting money from a guy who wasn't even a coach yet at a university he hadn't even committed to playing for. But as a result, Wiseman was suspended for 12 games. About midway through that suspension, he announced that he was leaving school, he was hiring an agent, he was going to prepare for the draft, not going to be part of the university or the basketball team anymore. So whether you think what the NCAA did was fair or not, what Penny did was shady or not, we're left with lots of questions about the type of player that James Wiseman is. Listen to what Yahoo sports writer Tyler Byram said about James Wiseman. He sums up his 2020 draft status pretty well. There's lots to like about James Wiseman. He has the star power and an explosive game that comes with being a top pick. As a pure, raw athlete, a lot of teams would love the opportunity to develop him. With his size, he could instantly have an impact as a rim protector and rebounder. There's just skepticism on his lack of play in college and not playing a competitive game since November. So that means scouts are really going to have to go by what they saw of James Wiseman when he was in high school. And maybe we can get a little bit of reassurance from that because he was a consensus 5-star recruit out of high school. He was considered the top recruit in the 2019 class. Senior year averages of 25.8 points, almost 15 rebounds, 5.5 blocks. Gatorade National Player of the Year, Morgan Wooten National Player of the Year. He won Tennessee Mr. Basketball. He was in the All-American game. He was in the Jordan game. He was in the Nike Hoop Summit. He shared MVP of the Jordan game with Cole Anthony, who's going to be another lottery pick. The dude has a resume. He has the accolades. And according to WatchStadium.com, they took a poll of 35 NBA executives. 20 said they would select James Wiseman as their number one pick. And you'd have to assume the other 15 are taking him somewhere around that range. So in response to where he'd want to be picked, Wiseman said, "I really don't care about the number one spot, to be honest. I just want to get better. I just want to be a student of the game. Having real NBA vets teach you a lot about the game of basketball. Being in that type of environment will help my game develop tremendously." To me, that sounds like a guy who wants to go to the Golden State Warriors. But you hear how the Warriors like Anthony Edwards. They like Onyeka Okongwu. Maybe they're going to trade the pick. No one is showing their cards. We have no idea what these teams are going to do. To me, the Warriors make some sense along with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I also think the Wizards, the Hornets, or the Spurs make some sense if they were able to move up into the lottery. Where Wiseman goes is going to be one of the biggest questions of the 2020 NBA draft. Add to that, the center position doesn't carry the same weight that it used to. I mean, 10 years ago, Bol would have been one of the top picks. This past draft, he went in the second round. Jahlil Okafor was supposed to dominate when he was one of the top picks by the Sixers a few years ago. That hasn't panned out. He really doesn't play much. Just 2 years ago, the Phoenix Suns spent their number one pick on DeAndre Ayton, an athletic 7-footer. He's a solid player, but is he ever going to be an all-star? Don't you think Phoenix wishes they'd gone with Luka Doncic or Trae Young, even Jaren Jackson Jr. in that spot? For all intents and purposes, Wiseman is a traditional center in that vein, and teams have shown that those types of players are no longer necessary to win. In fact, some might argue they can be a hindrance to teams reaching their full potential. Do you want to use a high pick on a player like Wiseman when you can sign a center in free agency that can do basically what he does for a cheaper price? Tell me in the comments where you think James Wiseman is going to be drafted in the 2020 NBA draft. Would you want him on your team? We've got a goal of 333 likes on this video, so if you enjoyed it, do hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Thanks so much for watching. This is Troy with the Half Court Report, and I'll see you next time. Hey guys, one more thing. Here's some more videos to check out on the Half Court Report channel. I hope you like them, and thanks for watching.